Did you know that millions of property owners could be affected by a rule change they've never even heard about? Sounds unreal, but in California, a new property law is already in motion, and it's quietly changing the game for homeowners and renters alike. Imagine waking up to discover that your rights, costs, or even property value have shifted overnight. No warning, no headlines, just new rules that could directly impact your financial future. So what's really happening behind the scenes? And why are experts calling this a potential turning point for the housing market? Stay with me. This could change how you see your property forever. Number 1. Sudden legal changes most people don't understand. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most property owners don't actually know the laws that govern their own homes. And that's not because people are careless. It's because property regulations can change quietly, buried in long legal documents, or pass through updates that rarely make headlines. In places like California, new property rules can take effect faster than most people can react, leaving homeowners and renters completely unprepared. Think about it. When was the last time you actually read a full property regulation update or checked your local housing laws? For most people, the answer is never. Studies in housing policy have shown that a majority of homeowners rely on outdated information, assuming the rules they learned years ago still apply today. But that assumption can be dangerous. A small legal shift can suddenly change what you're allowed to do with your property, how much you owe, or even your long-term ownership rights. What makes this even more risky is how complex and confusing these updates can be. Legal language isn't designed for easy understanding. It's often filled with technical terms that the average person simply skips over. And that's exactly where problems begin. Missing one small detail could lead to penalties, disputes, or unexpected financial burdens. So what can you do? Start simple. Make it a habit to review local government notices, subscribe to housing updates, or even consult a professional once a year. Because in today's fast-changing environment, not knowing the rules is no longer safe. It's a liability. Number 2. Hidden financial risks that can catch you off guard. One of the biggest dangers of this new rule isn't obvious at first. It's the hidden financial impact that can quietly build up until it's too late. In California, property-related changes often come with adjustments to tax structures, compliance costs, or unexpected fees. And the worst part, these costs don't always show up as a clear bill. You might only notice them when your expenses suddenly spike. Imagine budgeting your monthly finances based on what you've always paid, only to find out there are new charges or increased obligations tied to your property. It could be higher maintenance standards, new permits, or penalties for not meeting updated requirements. These are the kinds of costs that creep in silently, making it harder for families to keep up, especially those already managing tight budgets. Research in housing economics has shown that even small regulatory changes can trigger a chain reaction of rising costs. Property owners may pass expenses onto renters, landlords may increase rents, and homeowners might face higher long-term financial pressure. Before you know it, what seemed like a minor rule change turns into a serious financial burden. So how do you protect yourself? Start by reviewing your property tax statements regularly, and don't ignore small increases. They can signal bigger changes ahead. Consider speaking with a financial advisor or using online tools to estimate future costs. Most importantly, always keep a financial buffer ready, because in situations like this, being prepared isn't optional, it's essential. Common hidden costs are real. If this made you rethink your finances, I read every single one. And if you value the time and effort behind these insights, hit subscribe. It's just one click, but it means everything to us. Number 3. Property value can shift faster than you think. Here's something most people don't expect. A single regulation change can instantly influence how much your property is actually worth. In California, property value isn't just about location or design anymore. It's heavily tied to laws, zoning rules, and government policies. And when those change, the market reacts, sometimes overnight. Think about this scenario. A rule is introduced that limits how you can use your property. Maybe you can't rent it out the same way, or certain renovations are restricted. Suddenly, your home becomes less attractive to buyers or investors, and that can drive the value down. On the flip side, some changes can increase value. but only for those who are prepared and aware early on. For everyone else, it can feel like the ground just shifted beneath their feet. Real estate studies have consistently shown that regulatory uncertainty creates volatility. Buyers hesitate, sellers lower expectations, and the market becomes unpredictable. This isn't just theory. It's something that has played out in multiple housing markets over time. And if you're not paying attention, you might end up selling at the wrong time or holding onto a property that's losing its competitive edge. So what's the smart move? Stay proactive. Track your local housing trends. Keep an eye on new regulations, and consider getting periodic property evaluations. Because in a fast-changing market, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Number 4, the risk of foreclosure could quietly increase. This is where things start to feel real and personal. When property rules change, they don't just affect paperwork, they can directly impact your ability to keep your home. In California, even small increases in costs or new compliance requirements can put pressure on homeowners who are already balancing mortgages, bills, and everyday expenses. Imagine this. Your monthly payments suddenly rise, not dramatically, but just enough to stretch your budget. Maybe it's due to new fees, higher taxes, or required upgrades to meet updated regulations. At first, it feels manageable, but over time, those extra costs start to stack up. Miss one payment, then another, and before you know it, you're facing the possibility of foreclosure, something most people never see coming. What makes this especially concerning is how quickly situations can escalate. Financial experts often point out that many households live with very little financial cushion, meaning even a small disruption can trigger a chain reaction. And when legal or financial notices start arriving, they can be confusing, overwhelming, and easy to ignore until it's too late. But here's the key. This risk can be managed if you act early. Start by building a basic emergency fund, even if it's small. Stay on top of every notice related to your property, and don't hesitate to seek advice if something feels unclear. Because when it comes to your home, waiting and hoping is not a strategy. Preparation is. If this hit close to home, comment "Stay prepared." I want to know who's taking this seriously. And if you appreciate the effort we put into simplifying complex issues like this, take 1 second to subscribe. It truly keeps this channel going. Number 5, complex compliance rules can trap you without warning. One of the most overlooked dangers of this new property rule is how complicated compliance has become. It's not just about owning a property anymore. It's about constantly proving that you're following a growing list of rules, permits, and regulations. And in places like California, these requirements can change faster than most people can keep up with. Here's the problem. These rules are rarely explained in a simple way. They are often buried in long documents filled with legal language that feels almost impossible to understand. So what happens? People assume everything is fine until they receive a notice, a fine, or a warning that they've unknowingly violated a rule. And by then, fixing the issue can be costly, stressful, and time-consuming. For example, you might need new permits for renovations, updated documentation for rentals, or compliance with zoning changes you didn't even know existed. Missing just one requirement can lead to penalties or restrictions on how you use your own property. It's not always intentional. It's often just a lack of clear communication. So how do you stay safe? Start by organizing all your property documents in one place, preferably digitally. Set reminders to review local updates, and if something feels unclear, don't guess. Ask a professional. Because in today's environment, compliance isn't optional. It's something you have to actively manage. And the more informed you are, the less likely you are to get caught off guard. Number 6, renters and landlords will feel the impact too. It's easy to think property rules only affect homeowners, but that's far from the truth. In reality, both renters and landlords are directly impacted, and sometimes even more quickly. In California, when regulations shift, landlords often face new costs, restrictions, or compliance requirements, and those changes don't just stay with them, they trickle down. Imagine a landlord suddenly dealing with higher taxes, stricter property standards, or limitations on how they can rent out their space. What's the most common response? Rents go up, lease terms change, or stricter screening processes are introduced. For renters, this can mean paying more for the same space, or struggling to find affordable housing at all. On the flip side, landlords are also under pressure. Many operate on tight margins, and sudden regulatory changes can disrupt their entire financial plan. Some may even decide to sell their properties, reducing the number of rental units available. This creates a chain reaction: less supply, higher demand, and rising prices. Housing studies have shown that even small policy shifts can cause immediate ripples in rental markets. And the hardest hit are often everyday people, families trying to budget, students looking for housing, or individuals already stretched thin. So what can you do? Renters should carefully review lease agreements and stay updated on tenant rights. Landlords should plan ahead, budget for changes, and seek guidance when needed. Because whether you rent or own, you're part of the same system. And when it shifts, everyone feels it. If you're a renter or landlord, comment "I'm affected." I want to see how many of you this really impacts. And if you appreciate the effort behind this content, take 1 second to subscribe. It truly makes a difference for us. Number 7. Legal disputes could rise faster than expected. When rules change, confusion follows. And where there's confusion, conflict isn't far behind. One of the biggest risks tied to new property regulations in California is the sudden increase in legal disputes between homeowners, neighbors, landlords, and even local authorities. Think about it. If people don't fully understand the new rules, they may unknowingly cross boundaries, literally and legally. Maybe it's a disagreement over property lines, usage rights, or renovations that were once allowed but are now restricted. What used to be a simple conversation between neighbors can quickly turn into a formal legal issue, costing time, money, and peace of mind. Even more concerning is how easily small misunderstandings can escalate. Legal processes are often slow and expensive, and once you're involved, it's rarely a quick fix. Studies in property law have shown that regulatory changes often lead to a temporary spike in disputes, simply because people are trying to adjust to unfamiliar rules at the same time. For landlords and tenants, this could mean disagreements over lease terms, rent adjustments, or property conditions. For homeowners, it might involve zoning conflicts or compliance disagreements. In any case, the emotional and financial toll can be significant. So how do you protect yourself? Start by documenting everything: agreements, changes, communications. Stay informed about new regulations. And if a situation feels unclear, don't let it linger. Address it early or seek legal advice before it turns into something bigger. Because in a shifting legal landscape, clarity is your best defense, and prevention is always cheaper than conflict. Number 8. Urban development pressure is reshaping neighborhoods. Another powerful force behind this new property rule is the growing push for urban development and expansion. In California, cities are under constant pressure to solve housing shortages, which means more construction, rezoning, and redevelopment projects. While that might sound like progress, it often comes with unexpected consequences for existing property owners. Picture this: a quiet residential neighborhood suddenly becomes part of a new development plan. Zoning laws change, allowing larger buildings, commercial spaces, or higher density housing. On paper, it's about growth, but for homeowners, it can mean losing the character of their neighborhood, dealing with more traffic, noise, and even changes in property demand. For some, this shift can increase property value. But for others, especially those who value stability and long-term planning, it creates uncertainty. You might have bought your home expecting a certain environment, only to find that everything around you is changing rapidly. And the hardest part, these decisions are often made at a policy level, with limited awareness among residents until changes are already in motion. Urban planning studies show that redevelopment can create winners and losers almost instantly. Those who stay informed and adapt may benefit, but those caught off guard may struggle to adjust. So what's the smart move? Stay connected with your local planning updates, attend community meetings if possible, and understand how zoning changes could affect your area. Because when cities evolve, being informed isn't just helpful, it's essential for protecting your future. Comment change is coming if you've seen your neighborhood evolve. I'd love to know your experience. And if you appreciate the effort behind these insights, take 1 second to subscribe. Your support keeps this channel alive. Number 9. Most people still don't know this is happening. Here's what makes this situation even more alarming. A huge number of people have no idea this change even exists. In California, major property-related updates often fly under the radar, quietly passing through legal systems without ever reaching the average homeowner or renter in a clear, understandable way. Think about how most people get their information: social media, quick news clips, or word of mouth. Detailed property regulations rarely make it into those spaces in a way that's easy to digest. As a result, people continue living their daily lives, completely unaware that the rules affecting their homes and finances may have already changed. And that lack of awareness can be dangerous. Studies on public engagement consistently show that only a small percentage of citizens actively track policy changes that directly affect them. It's not because they don't care. It's because the information isn't presented in a simple or accessible way. But when people don't know what's changing, they can't prepare, adjust, or protect themselves. This creates a gap where some individuals, those who stay informed, can react early and make smart decisions, while others are left catching up after the impact has already hit. And in situations like this, timing matters more than ever. So what can you do? Start by following local government updates, signing up for alerts, or even setting aside a few minutes each month to check for changes. Because in today's world, awareness isn't optional. It's your first line of defense. Number 10. The long-term ripple effect could change everything. What makes this situation truly serious isn't just what's happening right now. It's what could unfold over the next few years. In California, property rules don't exist in isolation. One change can trigger a chain reaction that reshapes the entire housing landscape over time. Think about it like a ripple in water. At first, the impact seems small, maybe a few new regulations or minor cost adjustments. But slowly, those ripples spread outward. Housing prices adjust, rental markets shift, investment strategies change, and even future buyers start approaching property ownership differently. What begins as a single rule can eventually influence how, where, and even if people choose to own homes. Experts often point out that long-term policy changes can redefine generational wealth. Property has always been one of the most reliable ways to build financial stability. But when rules evolve, so do the opportunities and risks. Future buyers might face stricter conditions. Current owners might need to adapt quickly, and investors may rethink their strategies entirely. The most important thing to understand is this: the real impact isn't immediate. It's gradual but powerful. And those who recognize these shifts early are far more likely to protect their assets and make smarter decisions. So what should you do now? Start thinking long-term. Don't just focus on today's value. Consider how changes could affect your property in 5 or 10 years. Stay informed, stay flexible, and most importantly, stay prepared. Because when the system evolves, those who adapt early are the ones who stay ahead. If you're thinking long-term, comment future ready. I want to see who's planning ahead. And if you respect the effort behind content like this, take 1 second to subscribe. It's a small click that makes a big difference for us. So here's the big picture. This isn't just another policy update. It's a shift that could redefine how property ownership works in California. From hidden financial risks to changing property values, from legal confusion to long-term ripple effects, every single reason we discuss points to one thing: staying unaware is no longer an option. The reality is, most people won't take action until they feel the impact directly. But by then, it's often harder and more expensive to adjust. The smarter approach? Start now. Take small but meaningful steps like reviewing your property documents, staying updated on local regulations, and planning your finances with a bit more flexibility. You don't need to become an expert overnight, but you do need to become aware and proactive. Ask yourself this: if things continue to change at this pace, are you truly prepared for what comes next? Because the people who stay informed today are the ones who protect their homes, their finances, and their future tomorrow. At the end of the day, your property isn't just a piece of land or a building. It's a major part of your life and security. And in a world where rules can change overnight, the best thing you can do is stay one step ahead. Because when you understand the system, you don't just react to change, you control how it affects you.